Thanks for coming. Today is the last session of my lecture, but we are supposed to have another one, which mostly, devoted to discussion among ourselves, right? Maybe next week we could discuss at the end of this session. Okay. Today I'm dealing with the some cases of not Bishop Synod, no other synod, but the people's synod in the world, and beginning with the Philippine Infanta Diocese. Since we don't have interpreter today, so I'm fully enjoying my time, maybe 1 hour straight. So if you don't understand, we just check with me about the point that you don't understand, and then after clarification we could discuss, and then question and answer sessions, so on. This is the Bishop Laban, who almost 40 years worked as bishop of Infanta Diocese or Infanta Privilegia. It's indeed, this is not Privilegia according to canon law, but diocesan people, the faithful, call their diocese Privilegia rather than diocese. But anyway, who is the at the time 2013 is already senior. And the standing right side, he's Carl Gasper, brother Carl Gasper. He is a Redemptorist. Both of them I personally met, and then Carl Gasper I met quite a few times. I invited even to Asian countries, including Korea. Anyway, 2013, there was a symposium called Symposium on Labayan Theology. So Labayan is a quite good theologian. At the same time, he's a good pastoral worker and leader. Synodality and Infanta Diocese. What is the strong point? What is the strength of the Infanta? I already explained, YAPA program as a reformation program, so on. This time we just little bit look more on the Infanta Diocese. What is the strength of Infanta? First, strong leadership, which means the leadership of Labayan especially, and more than 30 years, I think it's 40 years, based on solid theological experiences and wisdom and pastoral experiences, and even the frequent communication NGOs in the regions. So they work together. That is the one strong point. And another one, Infanta Pastoral Council as a supreme decision-making body, where the whole people of God, including lay representative, they join together along with the all the priests, maybe at the time, I think it's less than 40 of them, and the religious also. So they discuss together, and they decide together. That's the supreme decision-making structure, which is very important one. And also, as we seen already, YAPAC as a lay formation program. One leader, lay person who finished the YAPAC, then he got a certificate from the Bishop Labayan, in which he clearly wrote, since you have this certification from me, Bishop Labayan, so you now you can get my order directly from me, not from a priest, so that the lay people directly communicate with the bishop himself. So many, you see, many priests in the diocese didn't agree with the idea, and some of them walk off, meaning left the Infanta diocese. So that hit very hard the Bishop Labayan, according to Bishop Labayan. So anyway, that's the experience, a bitter experience of Infanta the diocese. And anyway, the YAPA program is strongly supported by the Bishop Labayan, is very much important and distinguished. Another element is cooperative relationship with NGOs in the region. I mentioned already. This, the factors made Infanta stronger than other dioceses in a way that shows its democratic decision-making process and participatory church, and then also supported by the strong lay formation program. Indeed, we don't have many part of countries, many local churches in Asia or other continents. We don't have this kind of, strong elements or factors to support and make synodal church or democratic church so on. How about today? Infanta is the Uri Theology Institute, to which I belong, invited permanent Deacon Mario of Infanta 2006. And yeah, and then he explained what is Infanta look like, what is YAPAC, and how the diocese is functioning, so on. And after that, 2017, for updates, I emailed, a central secretariat, which reply me saying there is no more YAPAC because there is no fund since 2008. So there is no funds from Europe. So it was replaced by the mini YAPAC or other training programs, not YAPAC, which, take 24 days or 25 days, night, something like that, stay in program, which, a lot of need a lot of fun. So it's almost a turn to kind of a small Christian community, like a Bible sharing groups, so on. But it doesn't involve the regional issues or local community issues. Meaning, it's just pure what we call religious, concerns only dealt with. So Bible sharing group, the Bible sharing groups, it's good, but it hardly deal with the local community issues. As of 2021, a small amount of funds is still been received from Europe for SCC and for lay-centered church endeavors, efforts, but not quite enough, not like was before. So sadly, say that Infanta diocese is not quite same as before. How about the Philippine Council, Pastoral Council Philippine 2, we call PCP2, which took place 1991. It was significant in local ecclesiology or theory on church and Catholic Church history of Asia, because it declared the Church of the Poor the first time in the after Vatican II. In Asia, the Philippine church was the first local church which declared, my church is the church of the poor. But I don't know, such declarations go with reality, but I don't think so. But it's always a words, phrase. Let's see what happened. There was a follow-up, a PCP2 in 1999 and 2003. Among the dioceses that participated PCP2 that in 1991, 12 archdioceses or dioceses gathered to carry out the follow-up work on PCP2 under leadership of Bishop Labayan at the time. But after Labayan's death, it has not been held any longer. So we had two different evaluation on the PCP2 and also follow-ups. First, it was a self-orchestrating of the church hierarchy to minimize the Filipino church from becoming a radical church of the poor. Do you understand? The church hierarchy don't want to have their church to be really, radical church for the poor. That is one evaluation. Another one, PCP2 was a right response to the reality of the Philippines, where the majority of population suffers from poverty. So it's a very polemic responses to PCP2 polemic evaluation, isn't it? Then there was another evaluation from Dennis Murphy. Dennis Murphy, who I met in person, who was Marino priest, former priest, but he was married to Pilifina, and both of them commit themselves, devote their life to movement for urban poor movement. He was called father of the urban poor movement in Asia. So according to him, PCP2 was a desperate occasion for lay leaders. For lay leaders, that was a really important one, very much urgent one, but nothing more than a hierarchical formal efforts. So the church of the poor can only be achieved if priests and bishops plunge directly into the lives and sufferings of the poor who are in the midst of countless violence. So Dennis Murphy also given another positive evaluation like this. If the church as a whole, and especially PCP2 leaders, meaning bishops, had kept their promises at the time, we could have been at least part of the path to being a church for the poor, meaning there's no small contribution to make the Philippine church real church for the poor. Here we see his evaluation quite negative. 2021, last year, we had the year of the 500 years anniversary of the spread of Catholicism. Magellan, who spread Catholicism 500 years ago, who got killed by the General Lapu-Lapu, his name of the fish, very big fish in living in Philippines. He was the kind of Sultan Islam, of course. And then, anyway, to celebrate the 500 years anniversary of, introduction of Catholicism in the Philippines. So for the 9 years of preparations for this occasion since 2012, but there was no specific pastoral plans, no practice for the poor, except only words which was never implemented. The situation, institutional church of the Philippines is far from the spirit of PCP2. So what the PCP2 was all about? Was it end up just verbalizing or words? There was some different evaluation, but Dennis Murphy gave negative evaluation. How about India, CCI, Catholic Council of India? It's kind of, you see, the collaborator of CBCP, supposedly, but turn to there is no, representative body for lay people or religious. In the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India, 1996, decided to reform the structure of the Bishops' Conference so that all sectors of the church, including lay representatives, could participate in the decision-making process. That's the idea. That's the reason why the CCI was born. For this, the bishop decided to share decision-making powers on particular issues, not the whole issues, but on particular issues with the CCI, so that it is possible for CCI to discuss and present opinion on issues to be addressed at the Bishops' Conference. However, by 1997, CBCI decided at the time each council was to be set up in all 129 dioceses. At the moment, maybe approximately 160 dioceses we have. So so each the council is to be set up all 160 or 130 dioceses and parishes in the country to hold a CCI General Assembly. So when we have a General Assembly of a CCI, all the representatives could join, which is a theory, which was a kind of idea, proposed by CBCI, but it's never been implemented until today. So CCI, another story. How about reality? This decision has not been implemented as of 2020 today for unclear reasons. Although sharing decision-making authority was decided by the General Meeting of Bishops, there is no follow-up actions. Similar to Philippine Church, sadly say. No any news on the website of the Bishops' Conference regarding this, not mentioning CCI at all. So CCI is not, partner of the bishops. Even it didn't mention the CCI name at all. So contrary to the original intention of opening up the decision-making power to the laity and the religious, so on, there is no such evidence in CCI. According to a church media, laity are still excluded from the decision-making process and play no major role in the church. So CCI is still called a microcosm or miniature of the whole Indian church, but there is still a long way to go to exercise CCI leadership. But until now, I don't think CCI will get power in the future. It's hopeless. Hopeless is not an entire church, but hopeless, the role of the CCI as a leader or partner of bishops. Let's go to the another continent like Latin America, Chile, which have had a laity synod. The first one is in 3 years ago, 2019, January. First lay synod was held under the motto, "Another church is possible." Wow. It was held in the Santiago under the initiative of Chile National Lay Network, which is a very active group, consists of lay people, lay representatives. By showing their willingness and active participation, they want to show they can handle the crisis of the church. What crisis? We could see later on. It's caused by the sexual abuses by clergy. About 350 people participated in person, and the other 5 participated in the discussion through Facebook Live and made the final statement. Second one was held 2020, 1 year later, in the Hualpan. It's more than 11 regions, including metropolitan area. Lay people gather together, issue a statement calling for reform of the clerical culture and identifying aspects of the crisis. What is the crisis? What is the our task to do? Things like that. And the crisis challenge in the Chilean church caused by sexual abuses of clergy. Yeah, this is photo given by the friend of mine who joined the 2015 in Brazil, Sao Paulo meeting. No, it's after. Yeah, he was in the Brazil meeting, and this one is later, that one. He sent this photo. This one is second one. Sexual abuse, how serious it was. In the cases of sexual abuse that shook the Catholic Church in Chile and around the world, the entire Chilean bishops was called by Pope Francis and met with him. All 32 bishops resigned. Think about it. How the sexual misconduct and cover-up was serious. So serious that 32 bishops resigned. Of course, that's a kind of a gesture. But, look at the last sentence. Pope Francis admitted he made grave errors in judgment in the clerical sexual abuse scandal in Chile. In other words, in the initial stage, Pope himself, if not ignore, he's a little bit lower. You see, he thought it was that much serious. But after that, like an onion, you see, you want to peel out one and the skin. But there is whenever the more you peel out the skin, the deeper you found something. That's why the old 32 bishop resigned. So Chilean law enforcement authorities were investigating more than 150 cases of clergy sexual offenses, cover-ups, especially 8 bishops involved and 10 priests, 100 priests. At least 178 victims were counted, 79 of them known as minors. In particular, all 8 bishops, including Cardinal Ejati, which was very, very notorious in that, in the line of the sexual misconduct and covered himself, were investigated for cover-ups. Acceptance of the resignations of 8 bishops out of 32 bishops. Although all bishops tendered their resignations to Pope Francis, 8 bishops was accepted, but 8 bishops, the number 8 is quite big, isn't it? So from this, you could imagine how the sexual misconduct and corrupt was serious. So Pope Procates the Fernando Carmadia for the good of the church. So what is the final document of the second lay synod? They said, we want a new church and a new Chile, with the motto, another church and another Chile is possible, which was very much desperate. You could see how desperate they are. They means by they here means lay people. For these first, contribution to the social and political world, and the second one, contributions to the church. Let's a little bit go deeper. The contribution to the so they could say they could contribute to the social and political world. Development of space for citizen participation based on the new constitution. For the society, for the government, they declare we need new constitution, which promotes a dignified life for all. And second, participation constructively in other social and political organizations. Number three, demand for justice and compensation for those who lost their lives in a state of violence. You could imagine, of course, many countries in Asia also experience such, instability and also violence, many conflicts. And here in Latin America, here in Chile, also experiences a lot of injustice and also violence, so that they demand as such. The second, they said that they could contribute to the church as a good believer. So strengthening of the network of lay people centered on the poor and the excluded. So second one, building basic communities and strengthening not church hierarchy and the big church, but the basic communities. Focus on more basic community and strengthening its local and national networks. And also they claim for justice and compensation of victims of clerical sexual abuses of all kinds. And the demand of course, for greater responsibilities of women in all church life. And also promoting democratic election of bishops. Remember, promoting democratic election of bishop is quite strong, right? And requiring transparency in the church finances and administrations. This transparency, check and balance is needed. This is the second one. Sexual abuses in the U.S. churches. There is some lay movements, it's go with the church reform movement, synodal church or synodality, like that. So according to Pennsylvania grand jury in August 2018, for the past 70 years, more than 300 priests from 6 dioceses in Pennsylvania have sexually abused 1,000 children. And there has been a systematic cover-up within the Catholic Church. Pope Francis accepted resignation of Archbishop Donald Wuerl, who was accused of covering up cases and clergy sexual abuses. And Uhl was accused of sexual abuse following Bernard Law, who was a very well-known person, was number one or number two in even Vatican, not only US, which means he had really a lot of money, you see. So he given a lot of money to the Vatican. So there is no, person who replace him, second to none, you see. Was the one of the most powerful person in the whole Catholic Church. But anyway, Bernard Law was also accused the first time, and the second one is Donald Wu. The Cardinal Bernard Law, who resigned from the office of Archbishop of Boston shortly after first publicly of child sexual abuse scandals in the Boston Globe in 2002. We have Spotlight. It's kind of a movie which got Academy Globe Award. So it's very famous. After that, many countries revealed the sexual misconduct and abuse in many countries in the world. So Donald Wu was the second American cardinal resigned as archbishop because of the sexual abuse. And how about People's Synod in the U.S.? Yeah, because of this kind of crisis caused by the sexual abuse by clergy, the people have had kind of movement, what they call People's Synod, hosted by the American Catholic Council with a goal of building the church reform below. The first session on the September this day, 2019, and October 14, the second session, and following years, 2020. And faith is greater than norms. And they said, Jesus taught the fulfillment of those norms and laws in the kingdom of God and not a dogma. The Synod of people is an opportunity to create concrete steps and in the implementation of Vatican II. They understand the Synod of people is kind of implementation of Vatican II, which means there was not much implementation of Vatican II was made. Of course, that is very true, not in the US, but also in the many countries in Asia, which shift our emphasis from a hierarchical system to the people of God. It is recommended that this national and historical people participated in the first yard of the Synod, the first Synod. This Synod is in a slightly different from the existing symposium, in which they mainly listen, kind of a listening session or listening group, listening meeting, rather than talk. And they goes back to practice a listening circle when they get back home, get back their reason, where they're coming from. Latest Synod in UK, United Kingdom, or Britain, they called root and branch, which is different in a way that it has been women-led Synod, 2020, 2 years ago. They call it is inclusive Synod, lay Synod, aimed at the dialoguing all reform, diagnosing all reform areas of the church. Not one area, not woman, but the whole lay people, whole the people of God. Well, that's why they call inclusive lay Synod. So working on the Bristol Reformation document, I think is finished by now. So this document aims to propose it to the Bishop Synod next year as a part of the preparation to reassure the lay faithful that their practices are consistent with the Catholic tradition. Don't worry, our movement, our endeavor, it's in the same line of church traditions, and yet the change is possible. To assure them of church such change, supported by the experienced and learned thinkers, pastors, and theologians. And the following year, 2021, there was an online synod. Many speakers, including Kuchrani Abraham, Virginia Sardana from India, both of them, and Nontando Hadebe is Africa. Three of them, and yeah, friend of mine. I met them personally many times. And Mary McAlee, I want to introduce to you, and who delivered the keynote speech at the time. She was the one. Is a very interesting person who was the former Irish president for a long time, more I think it's around 15, 14 years, two-term. And after that, she got the doctorate on the church law. I think he's the expert on church law. Interesting and amazing, right? So Mary McAlee delivered the keynote lecture on this day, 2021, with the theme, No Synodality Without Freedom of Speech. Canon law was important, blah, blah. Anyway, this is the scene of at the time of the synod. How about the Germany? We have a German way of a synodal path. Now there is a lot, tension, and there is a lot argument going on around the synodal path in Germany. Even Cardinal, who is it? Francis theologian. I forgot his name at the moment. Anyway, many progressive attack at this German way of synodal path. How is it? What about it? They called synodal path. It was born a crisis caused by also, again, sexual abuses in church in Germany. 2018, German bishop reported 3,677 cases of sexual abuse of minors in Catholic institutions, including schools and hospitals and so on. Nearly 5% of the all German clergy were accused of perpetrated. And the blow, it's a big blow to the German church, which was unprecedented. This is the first time ever. The synodal path was launched just a few months after this report on sexual abuse. A German style of synodal path led by National Lay Organization. It's a kind of central lay representative organization, and German Bishops' Conference itself. It's amazing, isn't it? The Bishops' Conference would directly join this the lay group to practice the synodal path. That shows how grave the sexual misconduct by clergy has been. There is a lot of backlash, however, not only from the Catholic right in Germany, right group, right conservative group, but also abroad and even within the Catholic conferences. I mean, the bishops' conferences. The backlash has been particularly strong in Bavaria and Cologne. Traditionally, one of the Germany's most Catholic regions, most popular populations live there. Bayern, Cologne, or Köln. Why conservative bishops agreed to the synodal path was that the sexual abuse crisis was so grave and so profound that no bishop dared to deny it. That's why. This is the General Assembly, scene of the General Assembly of the German Bishops' Conference in September 2020, 1 year ago, less than 1 year ago. At the time, the chairperson of the Bishops' Conference appealed complete reform. But Apostolic Nuncio in Germany repeatedly called for maintaining unity of the church and demand that you should the German church follow the teaching of Pope Francis. That's what the Apostolic Nuncio in Germany talked to the participants of the General Assembly at the time. So there is it's quite not harmony between the bishops or the bishops' conference and Apostolic Nuncio, represent kind of ambassador from Vatican in Germany. So what is about the German synodal way? Pope Francis' position on the synodal path is a little bit ambiguous, you see. So he's always, not always, but his way of dealing this kind of progressive synodal path is ambiguous. In his letter to the German people of God in 2019, he sent the two letters, 2019 and 20, respectively. The first one, when 2019, when the time when this reform project has yet begun. A clear expression, more clear expression made in 2020, the second letter. He said, I feel great sorrow when I see the church behaving like a political party. The path we must take is the same as the synod, not a political party way of doing it. Meaning, you, German church, should go, on the right track, right road, and not the road of taken by the political party, things like that. Pope sees that the reform should be spiritual rather than political, in which one side fights the other like a majority liberals and conservative minority in the synodal path. He's worried that it's become a political party in which they, progressive group and conservative, they fight each other. But fighting sometimes necessary, isn't it? What do you think? We could discuss about this. Although we have not much information, but we could share our idea. Few, including the German Bishops' Conference, really, few people expect a decision on celibacy or ordination of women to the priesthood in the course of the synodal path. Not much people expected that those, theme could be discussed on the Bishops' Synod, the Synod of the Germans. Even Vatican officials assert that no German decision will not have any authority binding on Rome or any other local church. In other words, even if the German church made or synodal path make it, their own decision, it has little to do with church authority or Rome, things like that. The German way of synodal path seems to take longer than expected. It's a long and winding road, like the song title, to church reform. But we have we could discern three things in common. In many countries, as you see around the world, the church's credibility and its numbers, Catholic population, plummeted down, dropped, steeply dropped and decreased due to the clerical sexual abuse and the cover-up issues and the lack of leadership of the church. Depending on who the diocesan bishop is, a synodal image of the church could be experimented with as seen in Infanta. Yeah, it's much depend on bishop indeed in a diocese, isn't it? Because it's a medieval structure indeed, the Catholic Church. So in one diocese, the bishop is like a king, you know. So in that circumstance, we cannot have a reasonable discussion. We cannot have any, come up with the some kind of democratic way of decision-making process at all. Number 3, establishment of a progressive and a strong way lay organization. We don't have such kind of, like a Germany and like some other countries where we could saw some, active devoted lay groups and the lay people who organize, who run this kind of a people's synod or something like that. Not so many, groups. Hierarchical number, and the continuation of the such progressive and strong lay organization. Hierarchical leader election scenario. There is some scenarios. Restoring early church tradition and introduce a bishop election system, like what the Chilean lay people argued. We need the bishop election system like that. So method of election by priest, meaning bishop could be elected by priest. And number B, we could have a lay people or whole the people of God's participation, to elect a bishop. But number 3, the two of the form aforementioned, these two models are not spiritual but political, so we should reject kind of scenario. What do you think? So what do you feel for, those 3? But according to our tradition, we have, bishop elected. In church history, indeed, all the church tradition for the election of bishop, the tradition of becoming a bishop by the election of the people of God, such as Saint Anselm, quite a long time ago, and even Saint Augustine is longer than Anselm, isn't it? Anselm is a kind of medieval religious figure, but Augustine is quite a well-known, theologian and a philosopher and a saint to Catholic Church, right? And it must be actively restored. So even Augustine himself, you see, chosen by the lay people themselves. It is specified in chapter 40. It is mentioned, specified by the Didache, is a kind of, is contained of course, doctrine and church teachings and pastoral, the work in early churches. So Didache is quite of important, documents also, like a book type of documents. And in chapter 15 of it, there was specifically mentioned the election of bishops. How about the Bible? Bible verses also strongly support this kind of bishops election system. Like, for example, 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 2 to 7, or Titus chapter 1, 7 to 14, should be studied more deeply as basic data. You could go back home and you go back your group, you could see the Timothy and Titus. take a look at this. We have such, verse in which we could have, church, bishops' elections or selection, so on. And also there is the Pope Leo's proposal. Research on the check and balance system that institutionalizes the procedure of election. Consent and consecration by laity, priest, and local bishops for a bishop candidate should be conducted extensively. This, according to the New Catholic Encyclopedia, this is clearly mentioned, this one. So you could look up the Pope Leo the Great. Who mentioned this one? And again, we have Didache, chapter 15, verse 1. Giving specific advice on the election of a bishop. Elect for yourselves bishops and ministers, like persons worthy of Lord, meek, not fond of money, and sincere. Because they will carry out the missions of prophets and teachers for you. So, theme for discussion today, not today. You see, maybe next week we could. I gave you each end of the lecture. I given already the themes. Remember, so you could add this to the list of the themes of discussion. Number one, among the cases of synod in the world, pick one example for you. That example can be applied to Pakistan and discuss the reason why. Why do you pick this one? And the second, what do you think is the most important obstacle to becoming Pakistan style of synodal church? What can and must the people of God do to overcome this? Thank you very much.